When I went on the rites of passage, it was as a result of meetings that I've had over the years, I heard Richard Rohr talking about rites of passage in about 1995, and in around about 1998, I retired early, and I did a course in spirituality, and I decided to do a thesis on male spirituality. I was encouraged to do a doctorate, and I decided that if I was to do such a thing, I would have to do the rites and see what they were like. So I went off to the Ghost Ranch in New Mexico, and there was 120 guys there. I found that rites was life-changing for me. It seemed to make sense of my life, of all the things that happened to my life. It made sense of me being a man.
I did my rites of passage in the rain in Kiltegan in 2012. There are many, many things I got out of it, and it's made a significant difference to my life. But the three big things I got out of it was I got to meet myself, a more awkward version of myself, a more joyful version of myself, a more real version of myself. The second thing I got out of it was I met a group of men that were very different from me, and yet we had a huge amount in common, and they were real men in their own struggle. And the third thing I got out of it, and certainly last but not least, is a sense of connection beyond myself, beyond the men, to what I tend to think of as the great mystery. A sense of being pure spirit, flesh and blood, but more than that. I encourage you to go to the rites.
I found the rites a very good experience. Coming up to the rites, I was looking for something. I felt there was something wrong or something not right in myself. I didn't know what it was. A friend introduced me to the rites of passage, and I actually went to the States to do them. And it was a challenging experience, but a very powerful experience. And it's nearly 10 years now since I did it, and I'm still integrating parts of that experience into myself, but I feel a stronger, more peaceful, rounded person from the whole thing, and I'm glad I did it.
My name is David, and I done my MROP in a little place called Kiltegan in 2012. And I suppose, like many men that went down there on the day, I wasn't really sure why I was there. But I once heard a saying that if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't really make any difference what road you take. So it turned out to be a fantastic journey for me in the end, and I would recommend it to any man who's even remotely thinking about doing the MROP to take that journey. It will be a fantastic experience. I also had a wonderful experience last July in a place called the Field up in Scotland. I was on the team up there for the rites of passage, which was the other side of the fence. It was a great place to be, to see it from the other side. I was asked to welcome all the men that were on the MROP, 32 of them. So I went down to the gate and I welcomed all of them in past the threshold of the field. And at the end of it, it was amazing to see the transformation in those men. It was only 5 days, but the transformation was unbelievable. And I think you cannot really explain it away, and maybe it shouldn't be, because part of the reason why the MROP works is the mystery of it. And to see those men leaving after that week in the field was truly amazing. They were totally transformed. They even physically looked different. I don't know how that was, but it works.
I met wonderful men there, and I realised that what a privilege it was to be a man at that particular one. That we could carry so much suffering and so much pain, and yet be very effective in our daily lives, in looking after families and in doing our work.
Yeah, the rites mean a lot to me. I done my rites about 10 years ago down in Kiltegan. It really gave me the permission to grow up to be a man. When I realised there was about 100 people there, 110 people there, there's two halves of life, the first half and the second half of life. I now realised I can settle into my second half of life, which is a more mature and understanding part of life. And when I realised the amount of people that were there, and they're all so giving of themselves and speaking true from the heart, and that kind of gave me permission to be genuine and to be myself, really.
I did my rites in 2007, and I had done a lot of work on myself before then, but that event was the most transforming for me. I felt like a 30-year-old boy, and after the rites I knew something very profound had happened in me, something had changed. It took a long time for that to weave its way through me, but I know the event was so powerful and so enriching that it stays with me even now. What is it, 8 years later? It's still very much present day to day in my life. It was a hugely transforming event.
I did my rites in Kiltegan, 2012. It rained for 5 days continuous. I'd never been on anything like that in my life. I came alone. I met men there that to this day are some of my best friends. The two main things I got from carrying out the rites were, one was I could never consider myself a man. I always thought of myself as a boy. But after the rites, I knew I was a man. The second thing that I really took home with me was that I realised that I wasn't the only one. In ways that I wasn't the only one that thought or felt that way. I was shoulder to shoulder with other men who had thoughts and feelings the same as I had. And through sharing, came to realise that. And those are the two main changes that have happened in my life since I did the rites. It's 5 days you'll never regret. It's a time where you will never be the same again. So do the rites.
So when the rites were finished, I decided that I really had to bring this to Ireland, because I felt that Irish men needed something like this. Part of that reason was because I worked with men all my life, and I was very aware of the fact that men, we liked to talk about successes and failures. We liked to talk about anything but feelings, anything about who we really were. And yet the rites seemed to suggest who we really are. The other thing that impressed me about the rites was the fact that everyone in my particular group, as we were meeting for the last time, we all said in some form or other that when we go back home, the first thing we'll have to do is to start treating our ladies and our women in our lives with far more respect than we have in the past. And what impressed me about that was that there was not one lecture or talk about men's relationship with women, that this was something that spontaneously came as a result of the actual rites itself. Since then, coming back, we set up a rites passage here in Ireland, and I've seen so many men transformed and becoming comfortable in who they are. I found out over a period of time, it was a starting point for me. I had to go and really go on a journey inwards, a journey to find out the answer to the question, who am I? At this late stage of my life, I discovered that I am a man, believe it or not, but I like being a man. I'm glad I'm a man. I'm glad that I'm in the company of men, and I have a sense of my giftedness as a man that I can bring to my marriage, to my other friends, and I notice, and particularly to the younger men in society.
Well, I did the MROP in the Czech Republic in 2004. It was facilitated by Richard Rohr. On reflection of that experience, it has been a very significant event in my life. It has widened the lens of how I see life. It's helped me to see life in a different way. I've always thought about the question of what life is all about. And now I just live with the question, not looking for answers. It helps me on my journey to masculine maturity. The journey is always continuous. The journey of transformation for me will always be under construction. It allowed me to tune into my brokenness and into my blessedness, and it's been a great privilege to have experienced that as I continue on my life journey.
So I can recommend anybody going on the rites. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a milestone in your life. It's going to be something that's going to be meaningful. And I'll just end by saying, after some months, I was sitting down with my wife and I started to talk about the rites, and she uncharacteristically said nothing. And after I had stopped, she looked me in the eye and she said she had to wait 40 years to hear that, and it was well worth the wait. So it's well worth giving your time to go on the rites. You will certainly not regret it, and I'm nearly 100% sure that your wives and the girls and the women in your life will be glad that you went. Thank you.